2022, which is incredible to think about by itself. But I've been meditating for about 30 years and teaching for about 20 years, maybe a little bit more than that. Like I said, I'm very excited to be here, and I'm going to kind of take off where I left off last week with the group that I know that a lot of you are here. And last week we talked about what awakening was. This term awakening, I often find myself using the term awakening more than the term enlightenment, but it's mentioned that awakening or enlightenment is a rising of one's consciousness. And I would like to continue with this subject and then do what I feel is a very, very a powerful meditation after I've explained a few things. So again, sadly, the average person raises their level of consciousness very little in one's lifetime. And this is an indication that only a few lessons are actually ever learned in a lifetime. So the resistance to change or growth is really considerable, and for the most part, us humans don't even realize what's happening. It seems that in many cases that most people would rather die than alter their belief systems, that I would consider that, which is something that confines them to a lower level of consciousness. I think we would all agree that humans are very funny because we have the ability to raise our level of consciousness, but yet most of us don't do it or don't even think about doing it. And many of us, I feel, wish, or should at least wish, to raise our levels of understanding of life, to be more aware and awakened to the reason we are here on this earth and to what our purpose on earth is all about. Why are we here? And most would agree that from a spiritual standpoint, as we begin to discover our reason for existence, that this can be just a huge moment in a person's life and a major trigger for an upward movement of our, I guess we could say, our personal levels of consciousness. Now, I'll get into a little bit more explanation of what consciousness is for some of you that might not fully understand what I'm talking about. But first of all, I'd like to say that it's been proven over the past 30 years or more that through studies in kinesiology, that if we were to raise our individual levels of consciousness, that the level of consciousness of those around us would raise up as well. That just by simply being in our presence, we know that the great teachers throughout time were able to raise the consciousness of those that they taught directly. And there's evidence that this energetic transmission of energy doesn't have to be a direct physical transference, meaning that it can happen by reading the teachings of others, doing suggested practices, or following set instructions without actually meeting the facilitator or the teacher directly in person, which is just an incredible thing. So what this means is that this transmission of consciousness can happen without physical contact, without actually physically being in the same room as the teacher. In the same way that one might resonate with the teachings of Christ or the teachings of Buddha or what have you, if we hear and know that something is the truth, it can affect and raise our levels of consciousness. But it must be the truth. It has to be the nothing beyond the truth. It has to be the what we could call, in some terms, the ultimate truth. So what is consciousness and how can it be raised? Consciousness can be thought of as a field. Earlier I talked about personal consciousness, and there is a personal consciousness that we all have. But it's much more than that. It can be, if we think of it as a field, it's like an energy that can't be seen, just like we can't see electricity, and we can't see the energy that makes up the mind, and so we can't see consciousness itself. There are people that can see energy in different we can certainly feel energy in most cases, but to actually see what we're referring to as consciousness is not very common. So the mind is something that we can't see either, as mentioned, but the mind is the product of the organ that we call the brain, and it's the mind that allows us to be aware of consciousness. We can't see it, but we can be aware of it. And if not for the mind, which we can't see, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. If we weren't interested in consciousness, we probably wouldn't even be on Insight Timer. So the most direct function of consciousness is to determine truth from falseness. And most people simply feel that they believe what they believe is true, although this isn't necessarily factual. What we believe to be true isn't necessarily the truth. Our beliefs change, which means that our truth can change, but the ultimate truth does not change. And the ultimate truth is that each of us, within and around us, there is an electromagnetic field, scientifically called the torus field. And this is made of two forces, one being strong and then the other one being weak. And this magnetic field is what we may have heard it being referred to as the quantum field. And this field of energy reacts to and it actually records actions and events and even thoughts that we have had and that others have had throughout history, actually all beings, not just humans. So it's like an all-knowing field of intelligence. So again, consciousness is truth, and it is the real or the ultimate truth. And this is so because it doesn't respond to the ego. It only responds to truth itself. And this can be better understood by the fact that our bodies will grow strong to that which is helpful to ourselves and others, and it will go weak to that which is harmful. I think we can all relate to that. So the fact that consciousness is truth explains many things, such as why a dishonest or ego-run business never lasts. Even a poorly run church, for example, can't sustain itself, let alone a corrupt business, sustaining. They don't last, thankfully. Yet a business that has a fair exchange for their service will see growth if that's what they wish to achieve. So this type of growth is common and true in most areas of business, but it's true in life. And we may know of someone, or even have done this ourselves, where we try so hard to achieve something and cannot understand why it continues to fail. I know this has happened to me. And the reason is the energy behind the effort is ego-driven and cannot be sustained. The ego is not truth. It's only concerned about self-gain. So if something is not working in life, I urge you to take a deep look at the reasons and intention behind the project or the plan and be as honest as you can about every detail. It may likely have everything to do with self-serving as opposed to serving others. So in regard to rising or raising our level of consciousness, success in life is built around integrity, and even the awareness of this, and most definitely the desire to work with integrity, will raise one's LOC, or when I refer to LOC, I'm talking about levels or level of consciousness or levels of consciousness. Now meditation, and which is why we're here, meditation provides us with a really unique advantage in the area of raising our consciousness. It does this by allowing us a clear view or a keen awareness of our purpose for being and the integrity behind what we wish to do or what we are doing. Meditation can also point to the truth of our intentions, our are our intentions self-serving, or are they to serve or help others? And so if we ask this, we can really get to, ask it honestly, we can get to some deep answers. So the truth can lie behind deep-seated beliefs and untruths that we have been feeding ourselves for many, many years. For example, if we're not happy with our current occupation, upon a deeper look, we'll find that the reason probably is because it's ego-driven in some way. This scenario can be true in many areas of life, including personal health, the arts, our work, and relationships, and our spirituality. Now, I'm assuming that everyone here wishes to raise their level of consciousness. And I don't think you would be here if you didn't. You wouldn't be on Insight Timer if you didn't want to raise that level. So one way that we can raise our level of consciousness is to know what consciousness is. This is really the first step. And we've already talked about this a little bit, and we'll be talking about this more as possibly as we continue throughout these weekly meetings. I plan on meeting here at this time each Wednesday night. Next Wednesday is already set up. And if you can follow me, I think you'll be notified each week about the meetings and sent the proper link, which would be wonderful, wonderful service. Now, the second thing we must do or can do to raise our consciousness is to be aware or have an awareness. An awareness of something is a knowing of something. But in this case, a knowing of what? And that's what this meditation will be about. So first of all, again, just to kind of recoup or get the primary points across, that consciousness and understanding what consciousness is can raise our consciousness a few points. And I'm talking about these points from the category of primarily Dr. David Hawkins' work, and in his very popular book called Power versus Force, which was written back in 1998. So our consciousness can be measured by body testing or by muscle testing. And I don't want to get into that too much right now, and maybe we will in the future, but that can determine one's level of consciousness. So we know that we can raise it and lower it, and some of this is a constant, that it's raising a few degrees or a few points, and we don't really even notice. We would notice probably that we feel connected spiritually, or that we feel a oneness, like when we're walking in nature. Our level of consciousness is actually raising a little bit. But again, most people go through their entire life without raising it more than 10 points. We can raise it 5 or 10 points just by the understanding of what consciousness is, how we can use that awareness of consciousness, and by meditating. So when we do, around the nation, we have these great big groups of meditators that form, these big global meditations to raise the consciousness level of the world. It actually does work. It works. You have to believe me on that. And if you ever have an opportunity to do muscle testing, check and see, kind of do your homework with the book Power versus Force, and maybe see where your level of consciousness is at. And the reason I have brought all this up about consciousness, what it is, what awareness is because this is a big part of the meditation, which I feel is can be a very, very powerful meditation for us. So I invite everybody to make yourself comfortable. We're going to have probably about a half-hour meditation here. Take us up to about 1/4 or 10 minutes to the hour, and then we'll see if there's any questions or anything I can kind of recap. So please make yourself comfortable. Relaxing the body. Please close your eyes. Bring your attention to the body. And feel the aliveness within. This aliveness is the perception or the awareness of consciousness itself. This may sound very complex upon first hearing, but it's really quite simple. In regard to consciousness, it's a knowing that there is an aliveness within the body. Without a body, this awareness would be more localized or pointed towards thoughts, memories, mind states, mental imprints of the past and future. Feelings of what was not completed in the past and expectations for what might be done. So if you can hear me, you can be aware of the body. If you can feel your breath and breathing, you can and are being aware of the body. This body awareness is aliveness and awareness of consciousness. This is a great place to start with each meditation. But understanding consciousness can go much deeper than being aware of the body. It's a field that lies in and around everything. Consciousness is a part of us. And it is beyond us. Consciousness is in the trees, the grass, the animals, the food we eat. Consciousness is in the buildings, and it's in the earth. Consciousness is also a holding place for all forms of life. We remain in consciousness after death of the body and after full enlightenment. How would your life, your world, how would it be if you were a little more aware of some particular areas of consciousness throughout your days? What would happen if you were more aware of your conversations with others and more conscious of what they were saying and how you were replying to what people were saying? How would your world be if you were able to forgive all wrongdoings? to be able to let go of any animosity or judgment towards others for things that they may have done to you in the past. How would your life be if you had a complete forgiveness of others? Forgave them for what they know, not what they did, because they simply didn't realize, because of their level of consciousness as it was at that time. How would your world be if you were grateful for every moment of life? Even the moments where you didn't enjoy being in the situation or a particular place. But just being grateful for having the opportunity to learn all of these lessons in life. In essence, to be grateful for every moment that you're living and breathing in this world with this particular body at this time around. How would life be if you raised your level of love, unconditional love for all beings, to be able to love others without conditions, without reasons, without cause, without wondering if they loved you back? How would your world be if you could respond to all situations with nothing but the truth? Using your instincts and intuition to guide you through life effortlessly in a world that flows for you. To be able to determine and live by truth alone, or truth that you can determine, not by what people say or by past memories or what you've read or heard, but by determining the truth within, solely within your own being. How would your world be if you no longer had fear of any kind? The fears that you've been possibly living with all of this life, and perhaps for many of your past lives as well. Including the fear of being wronged in some way, or the fear of losing money, belongings, loved ones, and even losing the fear of the loss of your body, the fear that the death of the body, because this is the fear of mortality. The lack of life. Imagine a life that becomes so easy because you have learned the skill of letting go. And letting go that comes from a higher consciousness, a higher general consciousness that you don't even call your own, but recognize as a field of consciousness. This first big step in raising your level of consciousness is to first be aware of the aliveness within. This realization provides the awareness that is needed for you to understand that there is this aliveness within you, within your body. For the next few moments, see yourself lying in this field of consciousness. You can visualize it any way you like. Whether it's a field of grass or a field that you remember as a child or just recently. That you're lying in this field of consciousness. You can feel it in every molecule, every cell of your body. But this field is not drawing you into the past or into the future. This field is purely present moment awareness. Feel the aliveness. Feel the consciousness within. And feel it beyond your body as well. Consciousness is everywhere. It's in everything and everybody. Stay with this practice for a while. If your mind wanders, bring your attention to the body, to the breath, to hearing, to the sensation of this aliveness within. Whatever works easiest and best for you. Feel the energy within. I invite you to take a little deeper than normal inhalation of the breath. Feel the energy, feel the prana within. Slowly exhale, do this a couple more times, a nice deep inhalation. Slowly exhale. you'd like to bring your palms together at your heart center, may each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you.